give you some visual demonstration of what we're talking about and how it affects your motorcycle. I'm going to identify some of the components on a bike so that it'll all make sense to you. I can make it rocket science, but there's no sense in doing that. Basically, I'm going to talk about fuel injection, just to give you that little tidbit. Everything from 2007 and newer is all fuel injected. So what I'm going to talk about is you have a computer on your motorcycle called an ECM. Everybody has one. It has a little map written in it that tells the bike how to operate your fuel injectors, how much fuel to let in, and then air comes in through your air intake, and then it's going to leave through your exhaust. When you get your motorcycle, everybody knows it's pretty quiet. I've got a stock factory muffler here. You can look through it. Anybody, you can hang this around. No daylight.
Yeah,
you can see, okay? Look through it. So your exhaust goes in, it gets pushed out around the baffle, and then pushed through these little bitty holes and out the back. That's why it's quiet. So you can't see anything through it at all. When you change your exhaust, you go to an aftermarket. What can we see? Daylight. Okay? The pipe is opened up. You get classic between sound. Okay? When you do that, if you let more exhaust out faster and easier, you'll need to make an adjustment. So you're going to need some more fuel and some more air so the engine operates properly. Your stock air cleaner is a paper element like this with a metal casing. Okay, this is a brand new nice clean one. Most people have these nice dirty ones in there. That's also part of the service. You want to make sure you're paying attention to your air cleaner, keeping it clean. You can upgrade to a high flow element. This is a cleanable element, it's reusable, and you can pass it around. When we get done, you can look at it, but you can see light through it. It lets a lot more air in. Okay? And when combined with a different vacuum plate, you get rid of this metal encased. You go to a high flow air cleaner and vacuum plate. That's a lot more air in. So now we talk about air in, air out. Intake, exhaust. The injector, this squirts your gas in. Okay? To change what this does, you have to change your computer. You have to tell it something different. There's a couple, 3 ways we can do that. This is what's called a download. So if you're at a dealership and you go, they go, hey, you want stage 1 download. What are you really getting? Well, we hook your bike up to the digital technician. The motor company has maps, different ways that this works. We shoot one in your computer. It's not adjustable. It is what it is. Depending on what pipes you put, you may get, like sometimes you'll hear a guy really getting on it and then he'll let off and it'll backfire. That's because we don't have everything right. It'll run, but it's not optimal. The map that they give you is written for multiple combinations and multiple altitudes. Your motorcycle is, I call it a dumb motorcycle. The computer doesn't learn from itself. It doesn't make on-demand adjustments. So if it senses something weird, you get what you get out of this injector and this program. Okay? The program is kind of universally written. So that's what you get. Another option is a power commander. A power commander is an aftermarket component. Don't highly recommend it. It's very common. It's programmable. It gets between your computer and this fuel injection. It's basically put in line. So it kind of lies to the computer and tells it what to do to this injector. Give it some more gas, change your air mixtures. Okay? And then the third option would be Harley-Davidson, which is a street race tuner. It hooks to your bike. It's not put in line. It makes this thing completely programmable. We can change your timing, advanced curves, air mixtures, fuel mixtures, anywhere, any RPM range, any gear. Okay? So we can put a custom map for it. If you're just going to put standard slip-ons, put a set of mufflers on your bike to get some nice sound. You can do a factory download, never be a problem. A lot of people do more upgrades down the road. Man, I really want to have some sound. I can afford that right now. Later, I want to do a camshaft change. I recommend you go ahead and do a race tuner at that point. Spend the money up front because we can change your race tuner or whatever you do to your motor or motorcycle later on down the line. You make the investment one time, we can put a map in it, you're good to go. And then next year you go, well, I'd really like to put some cams and maybe do a 103 kit. Then we will tune it. The race tuner's in there, it's just remap it, we put it on our dyno, and you're good to go. You don't have to keep buying downloads and different tuning components. You make that tuning investment one time. Each one of these things can be done independently or as a group. That's what we do. You want to use our knowledge. You can say, hey, I'd like to have this pipe, this air cleaner. What am I going to expect as a performance game? What I've got is this motorcycle that we've got here, we made some adjustments to. What I've got is when you ride, what do you think you feel? Horsepower or torque? You feel torque. Horsepower is the number that your torque gets you moving, your horsepower keeps you moving. It isn't what you're always thinking. I could probably take a motorcycle, go and stop, put some really loud pipes on it, let you go for a ride, and you go, oh, it's faster. Well, it's not. It's actually slower. It makes less power. So, loud corresponds to most people as fast. That's not necessarily the case. So what we did, these two curves here, this the bottom one here is stock horsepower. Okay? On this motorcycle, bone stock, how it came. The second one here, this red one, is the stock torque. I think right? I got color one. This is your torque. The bottom scale here, miles per hour. Where's everybody ride on the highway? Between probably 60 and 90, 80. Roughly 60 and 80. So, if you'll notice, right here in this range, if you come straight up, the performance changes that we made to this bike brought the torque curve. The highest amount is where you ride. Imagine that. That's what you want. That's what you're looking at when you make performance gains in your motorcycle. It isn't all about having this great big huge horsepower number. If your horsepower and torque are way over here, do you ride at 90 and 100 miles an hour everywhere you go? No. You run, you get on the highway 60 to 80, especially with a touring bike. We picked the camshaft selection. Camshafts, I'll give you a quick overview. This is what a camshaft looks like, one of two in a twin cam motor. That's why they call it twin cam, just so you know. It's got two of these. Chain between them. This is what makes your valves open, which lets air and gas in. Okay? How big these ramps are determine how long they stay open, and how tall they are is how wide they open. And that lets certain amounts of fuel in. When you make a camshaft change, the timing, the valve timing, where those lobes are on the camshaft, determine pretty much where your power is going to be in the running range. So a drag race motorcycle that you're going to be wide open all the time through all the gears, your horsepower and torque are toward the upper RPM range. That way, you're floored, you keep it floored, you shift your gears, and you race. For us, we ride on the street. So we're shifting and going through a range. And we want, if you'll notice too, this bike, it moved the horsepower and torque from way down here. It maxed out at like, max horsepower was about 60. The max torque was in the 80s, 84. Well, the max torque now on this bike is 70, the max torque is 105. The horsepower is 75. Roughly a 20% gain. And it's put it, you see where it's at, this curve over here is way up in this range. The max is right where you operate on the highway. So it's not going to set the world on fire, it's not going to be a drag race motorcycle, but when you're two up, loaded baggage, torque. You're over 100 foot-pounds of torque at your highway range. It keeps you moving, it's like you want to pass somebody, you don't have to downshift 2 gears. You can roll on the gas and go around the car. So this is what we call a stage 2. What we did was, a limited comes in a 103 cubic inch stop. And all we did was change camshafts and put a download in it with a high flow and a set of exhaust. And that's all we did. We didn't do a race tuner. We were doing some experimenting. So this upgrade, less exhaust, is roughly $1,500 parts and labor. That's your high flow, your download, your cam, labor, and then your exhaust. That's where I want you guys to always use the dealership's advantage. We've tried every exhaust there is, somebody has in some form or fashion. We know who's chrome will peel, who's won't. We know whose quality and baffling actually makes power and performance. It isn't always necessarily the loudest motorcycle that runs with us. You can have a good tone, a relatively quiet motorcycle, yet it works well. If you take we've all been around here, like a straight pipe, no baffle, no nothing, it cackles, it does all kinds of things. There's no back pressure. And by back pressure, that's what's created by your baffle in your pipe. This pipe, the stock pipe you couldn't see through, it has some baffles in it, multiple baffles. And the air is forced through chambers of holes that gives back pressure to the motor so they don't backfire and all those nasty things. The pipe with string pipe backfires all the time. Every time you let off, It's called decel pop. Air and exact, no back pressure on what's coming into the motor. So something with a muffler that has an open chamber, if you look real close, you can see perforations in that. They stamp perforations in the baffle, and you can see them. What that does is disturbs the air, so it's not truly straight through, and air goes in it and around it, in and around it, and it gives it back pressure, yet maximum sound. So you get some tone. So you can do basics, but the thing you need to remember is any adjustment you make, you need to adjust the injection. If you let more gas out by changing pipes, if you open up the air cleaner, anything you do has a result on how efficient everything runs. And so when you get out there, everybody has a different way to skin the cat. But you always want to remember, I want you to learn the difference between a download, a power commander, and a race tuner. Your computer on your motorcycle, if you suck a download in there, it's one time, you're done. You can't adjust it. It is what it is. So there's probably, you all know, 100 sets of pipes you could put on a motorcycle. You're going to get a universal back. So is it optimal? It's going to function, and it's going to work for most things. But if you do it, and then you come in and you go, boy, it really backfires when I let off in 4th gear at about 60, there's not a lot we can do with that. That's probably because the baffle is pretty open. The main thing is if you're going to do some other things, you want to do the race tuner, because it gives you the ultimate in flexibility. You're not duplicating, because every time you come in for a different download, it's $150. That's what the part costs. A race tuner is roughly $400, and then some dyno times. Once we have a map written on a race tuner, it's yours forever. There's a security device that's put between the computer and your bike. Every time we make a change to the map, you need to have the security device. It's called a security dongle. We keep those on in-house for you. You can take it with you, but if you lose it, you got to buy a new race tuner. Another $500, $499. So we have a library of them. We put your VIN number. We keep that for you. If you need to make changes to your bike, though, that's what's required. But let's say, hey, you go, I've been out and I've ridden it a bunch of times. These pipes work really well, but I hate it. At 60 mile an hour in 3rd gear, at about 2,000 RPMs, it does whatever it's doing to you. You come in here, you tell us that. We'll put it on our dyno. We'll get it in 3rd gear at 60 miles an hour at 2,000 RPMs, and we can listen to it and hear it and watch it on the screen. And that race tuner will let us make adjustments to timing, air fuel mixtures to get the little hiccup it's doing out of it. We can tune it. We can tune that stuff out. That's the only device that's available to us to get that scientific. A power commander, again, is tunable, but it's put in line between your ECM and the injectors. So it's a bolt-in device. It's not made by Harley. The first thing they ask us if you have a problem is doing something. They're going to know, do you have a power commander or some weird thing on your motorcycle? And then they don't want to help you. So the biggest thing is use as much factory stuff as we can. You can tune it to what you need. There's nothing wrong within the world. Harley's got some pipes available. Take the pipes on, put the pipes on. They're designed to work with your stock setup. Stock mapping, stock air cleaning. That's available also. So hey, you want a little bit more sound. Most of the stuff's all street legal components, EPA compliant. You don't get that nice big rumble. So if you're after a little bit more rumble and you do that, and you may get a backfire here or there, then you'll want to make a change to your download or your air cleaner. If you do anything at all to the air cleaner, a download is required. It's not going to run like it needs to. Because the motorcycle is EPA compliant the way it comes. It's probably a little bit lean. They want to keep the environment clean, so they've got it lean. So if you let more air in, more air means lean. More gas means more carbon, more fat. There's a ratio that's optimum for a motorcycle. A map is written to where it's called your AFR, your air fuel ratio. It goes up and down as you operate your motorcycle. There's a perfect scenario for optimum performance at around 13, 14. You get towards 14, you get a little better fuel economy. That's also what the motor company's after. The stock motorcycle has ranges that go from 12 to like 18, bouncing around as your RPM range. They do that because you may operate your vehicle in the mountains, low altitudes, different things. So that's why I say it's a generic map written to function in all environments, so that you don't always going to be two up, or I'm always going to be by myself, or I ride a Softail versus a touring bike. Weight, motorcycle, and how you enjoy riding, we tailor a package to that. If you're going to run wide open everywhere you go and have something that makes all kinds of noise, you got that. And I can tell you what kind of power you're going to expect. I don't want you to waste your money on components that don't work and cause you grief. The biggest thing is you need to be out riding a motorcycle, put miles on, visiting dealers. The other side is when I say visiting dealers, I don't ever like to install here at the dealership something that if you're on a trip and you and 10 buddies have a 33,000-mile trip planned across country and you do have a mechanical issue. I want you to be able to go into any dealership and get it fixed. So if I found some trick aftermarket component that works really neat, and then you're out on a trip and it doesn't function, where are you? You can't get another one. They come from here, or you got a special order that's 10 days away. So we try to stick to the things that work and are readily available for you. So we don't get you down the road and you're like, oh no, I got a problem and I can't go. Questions? It's not rocket science. Don't be intimidated by it. We have a dyno on site. We use our dyno too. When somebody wants to do a race tuner, we do 6 hours of dyno time. We put a sniffer in the exhaust, and then we tune the bike air-fuel ratio flat. Perfect. We may wave a little, but your stock map will go 12, 18, 16, all over like this to accommodate all your environments. So we write a map that gives you perfect performance. Typically, sometimes you'll get, man, I wish my bike got better gas mileage, let's say, after we tune it. We can take some fuel away in your cruising range and get the air fuel a little leaner, so you use a little less fuel. But an optimal motor, for instance, a couple of these guys got big motors, but you get 30 miles a gallon, 35 miles a gallon. Jeff is 36. He's got a hot rod CVO Ultra that we've done a race tuner. He's done some cam things too, and you mess around with it, and you don't have that stock gas mileage, but you get something you live with and love the power that you have. That's kind of compromising the trade-off. But the biggest thing is that communication with what are you trying to accomplish with the upgrades you're wanting to do. If you know you come in, I'm never going to do anything to my motor, I just want some sound. That's available to you. We can do that. If you go, I want to do this now, and next summer I might do some things, then we've got some options we want to lay out so that you're not duplicating money. Don't come in and do this, and then, well, that's no good for the next thing that you do, and that's no good for the next thing that you do. Let's work up through it so that you're using the same components and getting the maximum out of everything that you do. We've got some great guys, but again, we've done so many combinations. You'll get somebody that comes in and they'll want to say, I need this, 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 and this. I can tell you right now that that's not going to make the power he wants because we've probably tried most of the things that are out there, and the expectations aren't always what everybody thinks. Exhaust is really critical. So the biggest thing I can tell you is if you want some sound, talk to us, because exhaust is the base for what you're really going to do to your motor. If you want to get this big power number and you're set on this pipe,